Hey everyone, welcome to Kitty Tinny Woodcraft. My mom made the mistake going on Pinterest the other day, and she ended up finding a mobile umbrella stand that she wanted to make. So, to see how this works and to give it a try, we're going to be building a prototype of that today. And to do that, I'm going to be using some old wood I had from when I built my fence. So, let's go. As I mentioned a second ago, I'm going to be using some old wood I had from my fencing project that looks just like this. And I'm going to be putting it through my straightening and jointing jig. And if you want a detailed description of how that jig works, you can click on the link that's on the screen somewhere right now. However, we're going to go and jump right in. So after that last clip, I decided to call it a night. And whenever you do that, you just want to make sure you mark the pieces so you know exactly how they go back together the next day. So I put 2.1 down here and worked my way up. And then I also marked where I'm going to be cutting in with the biscuit joiner to connect all these together. So let's go ahead and let's start putting the biscuit joints in. And then once we do that, we can start gluing everything up. Together, this is the process I used to clamp. I removed these two clamps just to give you all a better view. And normally there'd be two clamps here to keep these boards level, and these two clamps here are keeping it level. And then these are the ones that are actually smashing everything together, making them act like they like each other. And this really just helps keep them from warping during it. Also, the other thing that you want to keep in mind when you're doing this is as you're gluing these pieces up, you want to make sure that when you're looking at the edges of the piece, you want to make sure you're alternating the bands so that they go opposite of each other. That way you do lessen the chance of warping as you go. And also the best way, you don't need a lot of pressure on these clamps when you're clamping them together. You really just need them to be butt up against each other. Because if you clamp them too much and you don't put these support beams, that can actually cause a warp also. So just a couple things to keep in mind when you're clamping up your boards. Now that the sides are all glued up, I need to get to just the final preparations for them to get them into their final size. And to do that, I'm putting them on this tabletop because everything out here isn't necessarily flat. This is the flattest piece I know from reference points. And as you can see, this corner is lifting up a pretty decent bit. It's not resting right on the tabletop. So what I did is I'm going to take a very small cut from this side, and then I'm going to measure 20 and 7/8 inch up from this side, which will cut off the vast majority of this warp. Then I'm going to take it and put it into my pulling jig. I've now put all my sides through my slab flattener and I've sanded them down. Unfortunately, some of these got a little too small while I was doing it. So you can actually see the biscuits I used for the biscuit joints in these. Luckily, that's just one side and these are two-sided. So this will obviously be the side that's going out. However, because I had to cut so much of the sides down, I'm actually going to be reinforcing with bands on the bottom and the top to help with the sides and just to add more strength. And this is the base I'm going to be using. It's just 5 2x4s and they're just connected using screws. I didn't go too heavy on this. This is also where our wheels will go once we put them on. These are going to be attached with glue and finishing nails. The finishing nails are really just there to hold it until the glue dries. And if you're ever wondering about the strength of glue, here's a cutoff piece from the sides I was using. I'm putting it right on the edge where the seam is for the glue. And as you can see, it actually broke far from the seam. It didn't break on the seam. And I'll do the same thing again just to show you that. And while that looks like it broke on the seam, it actually ripped a lot of the wood, and it was actually the wood all around the glue that broke. So you can see the glue seams are actually stronger than the actual pieces of wood. So you never have to worry if you are gluing stuff up. With that said, let's get to putting these sides on here. So I already completed the banding around the bottom. Now I'm going to work on the banding on the top. And the top's going to be a little bit different from the bottom because I'm going to be using the top as a receiver for the top boards that are going to be able to pull in and out in case you want to pull the umbrella stand out. So to do that, this is a cutoff piece to get the top into the right size. So I'm going to simply put this up here, bring this just up like this so that it's now level with it. Then I'm going to remove this junk piece, just mark with the pen, and then that gives you the line that you can then go ahead and put all the glue down here, slap it up, nail it in place, and then keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then when we come back, I'm going to show you installing the top piece and cutting a hole for the umbrella pull to go into. I now have all the banding around the edges and the sides. I decided while I was doing the top that I needed to do the sides also. As you can see from here, this piece wasn't quite cooperating, so I decided to forcefully negotiate it with my clamp. Now that all that's done, I'm going to move on to putting the hole in my top. And to do that, I'm going to be using my plunge grinder. And to do this, I have it set so this bar is flat with the bottom. When it's set at the right depth, it's flat with the bottom. And then when I turn it on, I'll switch it to this, drop it down 1/4 inch, drop it down 1/2 inch, and then finish with 3/4. And then I'll finish that final part without this disc, and I'll just go down and clean it out. So the easiest way to do this would have been with a hole saw. However, I don't have one, so this is the second best option. With the hole for the umbrella cut out, all that's left to put on is the casters. But I realized as I sat it on the bench here that it looks like a crate. So worst comes to worst, if this thing fails miserably, I'll just nail it shut, throw some postage on, and I can mail this failure away if that's what it becomes. However, I'm not going to do anything else in regards to finishing it or anything because I'll just let it withstand the summer. If it survives that, then I'll throw a coat of clear coat or something on it to make it last longer. And then this just gave me a good hindsight to what a finished product would look like if I use professional grade lumber or plywood or anything like that. So here it is with the umbrella in. It works perfectly. It glides nice and smoothly around, and you can let it move wherever you need it to be. The one thing is the hole's a little big on the top, but that's probably for the best just because that gives you a little play in case you don't have it exactly centered when you stick it in. And now my parents will be able to find the exact perfect spot of shade for what they need on these hot days. So I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. That way you never have to spell Kittatinny again. Leave the video a like and leave any comments or questions you have down below. Thank you. Bye.